Hello and welcome to another edition of positivebritain.co.uk. I have a special guest again today, Sandy Robson, who is a Harley Street hypnotherapist. Welcome, Sandy.
Hello, Ian.
And what we're going to talk about at the moment is how you actually work now and how you can work with companies, corporates especially, who may be facing issues with their workforce, especially with this coronavirus at the moment and
Absolutely.
the fear or flight that they may be experiencing themselves. So give me a little bit of your experience on how you can actually help in these types of times that we're facing.
I like to work with companies as well as individuals because I can help people come to a place of relaxation and peace. I think that when we start to get panicked, we start to go into this fight or flight response to events and we become overwhelmed. And I mean, as you may know, the latest research suggests that 95% of the reasons that people go to the doctors these days are stress related. So if you have a build-up of stress and then there's that, then you hear the news and there's the coronavirus and then there's other things that are going on, people are worried about their health and about their futures, etc. So it's really useful for them to find techniques and ways to relax themselves, to bring themselves back into balance, to calm their minds down, to have control over their inner reality in a way. So I would work with that in terms of doing meditation groups. I would teach people self-hypnosis. I would do one-to-one sessions. Yes, and basically, help people learn how to manage their emotions, because what happens is when people start to get into a negative spiral of thinking, then their emotions get affected, and then when they start to feel even worse, then their thinking gets worse. So it just creates that
so
ongoing
they
cycle.
lose their efficiency, presumably, a lot of the time as well in the work environment.
Absolutely. And then, I don't know if you've ever had that experience when you walk into a room and you can just cut the air with a knife. That's the same sort of situation that you can have in a company, whereas you might get a group of people that are particularly worried or depressed or anxious or stressed, and then it starts to affect the collective. It starts to have that kind of ripple effect with other people within an organization, within a company. So it's almost beneficial now to sort of really take the time to show people that they can change the way they're feeling internally.
And presumably you can do it on Skype as well, because one of the issues by the looks of it at the moment is that staff are going to be sent home, so they're going to feel isolated.
Absolutely.
As well. And there's a lot of city companies already sort of saying don't come into work anymore. Apparently government institutions are going to be using Skype rather than having meetings in Parliament at the moment as well. So people are going to feel isolated anyway, so presumably you could do Skype one-to-ones with people as well and sort of help them through that period at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a really good point. And I have been recently doing a lot more Skype sessions with my clients. I have international clients as well. Some people come over to London and then they travel back to the States, or they travel back to Europe. So I'm always working in that way with clients, and it's a really important way of helping people now, I think. People just don't always have the time to come to Harley Street, for instance. So, yeah.
What do you think, what causes stress? What causes fear in the first place?
I think when people go through difficult situations in their lives, and they could have some emotional trauma that's happened as well, or they just kind of get really, really busy and they push themselves too hard and they keep ignoring the red flags and the signals and the warning signs, and they keep ploughing through and not having enough sleep and not eating properly, and eventually they will hit a wall. You know, I had a client recently that had exactly the same. He was working in the banking industry, and you know, he got to the point where he went down into quite a dark place because he literally from 5 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night was working and at the gym and eating sugar to keep himself, you know, drinking coffee just to keep his energy levels going. And you know, he had a bit of a breakdown. So it's really important to be aware of those red flags and don't keep pushing through them. Recognize them when they show up and heed the warning signs, basically. You know, I mean, like I said, people go to the doctors for all sorts of stress-related illnesses. So
the positive message today really is, if you're even, it's almost like this coronavirus, if you're feeling any type of isolation or any type of emotional situation that may be affecting you, and you're going into a sort of perhaps a more delicate place in your life at the moment, is to contact someone like yourself first of all, because presumably if you catch them before it becomes too much, it's easier to pull them back out of it again.
Yeah, absolutely, and giving people resources that they can really, you know, empower themselves. It's like, there's a lovely phrase that I read the other day, and it's called alchemizing fear with possibility. You know, it's kind of changing that fear. People don't think that they have the ability or the wherewithal really to change fear into something, as you say, you know, positive, and change stress into something positive, but it's absolutely possible. I think, you know, when you get into that kind of place of hopelessness, you don't see a way out, but there is hope. You know, there is always a way forward. There's always a way through that mire of bleakness or desperation or depression or whatever it is. You know, I want people to really hear that. You know, I've worked with many clients over the years that have come to me and want to commit suicide. I know I had a client last year that gave herself a date that she was going to commit suicide. And we worked. I mean, she came to me in October and she had given herself the date of the 31st of December. I really had to roll my sleeves up and, you know, really let's get this. It was quite intense, yes, but that you know, just to see her thriving now. So in that, I'm just saying that there's hope, there's possibility, there's a way forward. Yeah.
And does it take very long sometimes? I mean, if you can catch someone at the start of a situation, does it take long to sort of give them a different perspective on life that they're really seeking?
Yes, I think, you know, if you catch somebody before they've hit that wall, then yes, absolutely. I think people, when they, you know, they get to a very dark place, they then are really motivated to come out of that place. You know, there's nothing like going into, you know, what I call the dark night of the soul. Once you're there, it's, you know, you're really motivated to come out of that place, but it's better not to go that far down before, you know, you kind of come back from it. I mean, and you know, I can really help people when, at whatever stage they're at, you know, it's there's always possibilities and potentials within where you know, where anyone is in their life, really. So.
And they say men are very bad at opening up to their emotions. So do you find it's harder to treat men than women?
Not really. No. I find that I think men, all right, they're not really good with their emotions, but once they start to allow themselves to be vulnerable, which takes courage, I know, but you know, you find that I think there's such relief there. You know, there's, you know, having stuff that's been pent up for years, and suddenly they can start to release, let go, and also make contact with their authentic selves, you know, because they've always had to push forward and work hard and be a man and do all of this stuff, you know, and then suddenly they're allowed to just be. And that is quite liberating for men.
So finally, what would be your message to companies and to business people right now concerning all the emotional issues that we may be faced with in the coming weeks? Obviously with the coronavirus, and really there's talk now that this may cause all sorts of recessions around the world at the same time. So there's probably a lot of anxiety happening right now. What would be your message to business?
My message to business would be, you know, to really support the people that work for you, really, you know, and help them to just find ways of coping. And once they know that they have that support, then they're not going to end up, you know, in dark places, really. Yeah. You know, it's very important, you know, like I said in the beginning, I can create programs for particular companies to help them, help their people, you know, support them, and that they at least remain in that place of hope, and that, you know, there's light at the end of the tunnel, that doesn't have to, you know, allow that fear to kind of become too toxic. Yeah. You know, it's about allowing space for potential and possibility and positivity, and, you know, knowing that people, ensuring that people don't feel isolated and alone, that there is help out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And finally, how can people get in contact with you?
Via my email, sandy@sandyrobsonhypnotherapy.co.uk.
Okay, and you have a website?
Yes, that is sandyrobsonhypnotherapy.co.uk.
Okay. Sandy, thank you so much for, as always, great advice this afternoon. And I think your skills will become even more apparent over the weeks to come in helping British business as well. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ian. Thanks.
So, very interesting times at the moment. We're seeing a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety happening, obviously with this coronavirus happening. The government is being thrown into disarray. Business is being thrown into disarray as well. So obviously skills like Sandy can actually help and inspire people to get through those times. So for me, Ian Pelham-Turner, from positivebritain.co.uk and ALB UK Television, it's goodbye for now.